This shooting doesn't happen if our government had just listened to these families, or and not just our government, but if the state of Texas had just even done the paltry thing of making it, even raising the age to 21, they would all be alive.
That was Attorney Josh Koskoff. Joining us now is Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez, who represents Uvalde. He is now a candidate for United States Senate in Texas. Senator Gutierrez, thank you very much for joining us tonight on what is once again a difficult night for Uvalde, for Texas, for the country, to learn from the Attorney General that if the police response had been proper, lives would have been saved.
Yes, Lawrence. First off, thank you for continuing to tell the truth on this story, because this is the worst law enforcement response to a school shooting in our nation's history. What today's report did in putting this in black and white exemplified and justified, gave justification for everything that we've been talking about. And indeed, the things that we've been talking about were proven to be even worse today. The extreme failure that happened on that day, having law enforcement wait 77 minutes while those children died inside that classroom, waiting for some kind of relief. As you know, Lawrence, I've seen all of the video footage. I've seen all of the body cam, because I needed to see what went wrong. And over again, cops said, there's an AR-15 in there. There's an AR-15. And that refrain went on in many of the body cam footage. And it culminated in one policeman saying, I don't want to get clapped out today. I don't want to die. Those kids didn't want to die either. They deserve so much more from law enforcement. And they also deserve so much more from politicians, cowardly politicians in Washington and in Austin that refuse to do anything on this issue. Cowardly politicians like Ted Cruz and others who refuse to see the things that we've seen, who refuse to see the dead bodies. Images that I'll never forget, images that I wake up to and I go to bed to. We have to stop this madness in this country. And so I thank you for continuing to tell this truth.
I was struck by the point that the attorney made. It's a point I've made repeatedly on this program, that big army of law enforcement there that also included some federal officials, some Border Patrol, but primarily Texas law enforcement. They were afraid of the weapon. They were not afraid of the 18-year-old. They were afraid of the weapon. If they had heard it was another weapon, this might have been different for them. They are terrified of the AR-15.
Lawrence, I cannot tell you, I've seen over 400 hours of body cam footage. This isn't one cop that said there's an AR-15. Over and over and over again, you heard that one commentary. Amidst everything that we heard today about the chaos and the lack of leadership and nobody taking control and, pointing to the cafeteria school cop and saying, oh, it's him. The fact is that each and every one of those cops failed, and they were hamstrung by their fear, as you have suggested. Politicians and even law enforcement have to have the fortitude to go testify in Washington, to testify in Austin, and say, this weapon is a dangerous weapon. It fires 3 times the speed of the 9mm I have in my gun closet. It creates a damage like you can't imagine. I remember the first time I sat down to look at some of this footage. A little girl was dragged out of a classroom, Lawrence, and I'm sorry to say this on television. This little girl came out of there. Her face was gone. Her face was gone. This is what happens. This is the death and destruction and the finality of a little 9-year-old kid. We must stop this madness. These families will advocate not just for the memory of their children, but because they never want another parent to go through this again.
You know, we did hear from the medical examiner about what he had to deal with, and from one of the emergency room doctors about what he had to deal with, what he had to look at when that little girl came in.
She was just one of them, Lawrence. There's so many stories to go into. A little surviving boy whose parents he told this story to. His little girlfriend was killed. All he remembers is he was also shot. He survived. All he remembers are teeth on the ground. That little girl's face was mutilated. It was gone. America needs to get a grip on this issue. Understand that for those parents, they sent their children to school that day, and they will forever have to live with the pain of not knowing how their child died, not knowing if their child died instantly or dealt with this pain for the 77 minutes. And as Attorney Koshkoff suggested, imagine had these cops not been afraid, had they done their jobs, how many kids would be alive today? Because 5 souls came out of there with a pulse, and 4 of them died on the way to the hospital. Eva Mireles was stuck in an ambulance because cop cars surrounded that school and those arterial streets, and they couldn't get out. The kids that were taken to the hospital had to go over curbs and sidewalks in a school bus to be able to get the care that they needed. Everything that happened in that fateful day in Texas was extreme and utter failure.
Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez, thank you very much for joining us once again tonight.
Thank you, Lawrence.